Hello, my name is Sarah Baldwin, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I am a Somatic Experiencing Practitioner, and I help people to resolve trauma, to address attachment issues that might be showing up in their lives, and really to help people get unstuck in any area of their lives they may be finding themselves stuck in and heal the past while doing so. And I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about regulating our nervous systems, and in doing so, gaining control of our lives. So if you're finding yourself stuck in a particular area of your life. Maybe it's not being able to step towards your purpose, or maybe you struggle in your relationships, or maybe it's hard to have community and let people close to you, or perhaps you might notice that a lot of the time you're experiencing things like anxiety or worry or frustration, or you feel hopeless or shut down or kind of blah a lot or depressed. All of those are clues or cues or indicators that your nervous system might be dysregulated. So today I'm going to explain to you what is this thing called our autonomic nervous system. And then I'm going to provide you some support to begin gaining control of your experience. And what's so exciting about this is by doing so, we get to be in control instead of outside circumstances having all of the control in our lives. And we get to live the predominant amount of our lives in a regulated state, which I'm going to tell you about what that means in a moment. So within each of us, we all have something called an autonomic nervous system. You'll hear me call this a self-protective nervous system. And I call it that because there are many members of this self-protective team, and they have one primary mission, which is to keep us safe and to keep us alive. So what I'm going to first do is explain the different states within this autonomic nervous system. Some of these might be familiar to you as I describe them. You might say, yeah, I experienced that a lot, or this one a lot. And then I'm going to provide you some support in beginning to shift your experience based on the autonomic state that you are in. So at any given moment, we are either regulated or dysregulated. The experience of regulation, what that really means is that I'm anchored in the here and now. I'm actually present. And if my life around me, the things happening are actually safe, then I'll come into this regulated state. And when we're here, when we're in regulation, we experience things like joy, connection, flow. We feel grounded, steady, capable, able. We have an I can experience. I can do it. I'm curious. This is where flow, creativity, childlike wonder, all of these really wonderful things that we desire live. That's where they are. Intimacy, vulnerability, and all kinds of other things. And that's called our ventral vagal complex. That's a part of our autonomic nervous system. Now, you may be thinking, well, why am I not spending time there? Or how do I spend more time there? Well, we have something within our autonomic nervous system called neuroception. And this is the first part of this self-protective circuit or this self-protective team. You can think of it kind of like our threat detector. And this lives in our brain stem. And every single millisecond of your entire life, which is so astounding, it is working for you. And what it's doing is it's looking out to your current situation to decide, is that safe? Is that dangerous? Is that life-threatening? Is that safe, dangerous, life-threatening? Safe, dangerous, life-threatening? Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, how does it decide what is safe, dangerous, or life-threatening? Well, we each have this receptacle of past information. You can kind of think of it like a database. And within that receptacle of information are all of your life experiences. There are the good things that have happened to you and the good connections you've had with people. And then there are also the things that have been challenging for you, the things that have been traumatizing in your life. And what we know about epigenetics is the unhealed traumas of our parents are also in there as well, and evolutionary responses. So every single millisecond, this threat detector is looking out into the world and saying, is that safe, dangerous, safe, dangerous? I'm looking out my window and there's a beautiful tree. And when it looks to that beautiful tree, I've never fell out of a tree has never harmed me. So quickly, my neuroceptive response looks to this database of information. I grew up in the woods of New Hampshire in the US. And so my system spent a lot of time in the woods. So my system says trees are safe. And when the threat detector says coast is clear, the trees are safe, or whatever it is in your life, what happens is we come into this ventral vagal complex I just described to you, this state of regulation. Now again, if you're saying, when I described that to you, of being present in flow, everything just feels okay, the porridge isn't too hot, it's not too cold, it's a just right experience, this is where happiness and all of those wonderful things live. If you're saying, I don't really spend a lot of time there. I want you to know that makes so much sense. And I'm going to describe why that's happening right now. So remember, we have this threat detector, right? It looks for cues of safety, danger, and life-threatening danger. And if it sees something in front of us as dangerous, right? It looks out in front of us, and I'm going to give you some examples. Maybe it sees something like a romantic partner, or being seen, or taking up space, or using your voice, or being vulnerable, or embodying your sexuality, or receiving, or whatever it might be, being seen. I think I've already said that. It looks to the database and says, what information do I have on that? And let's say I have a complex trauma history myself. So let's say in my own experience, and this certainly was true, I wanted to be seen in the world. I wanted to take up space. I wanted to embody my purpose. I spent probably 2 decades stuck not being able to do that. So it looked to this database of information and said, what intel or information do we have on being seen? And mine said, wow, we have all these childhood experiences of when you're seen, you're harmed. When you let people close to you, they're going to hurt you. When you are present, you're not going to be okay. When you use your voice, something bad will happen. And so guess what happens? The threat detector says, ding, 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 that thing in front of you is dangerous. It's not safe. Even though the thing in front of you in the here and now might actually be safe. Based on past information, our self-protective circuit is saying it's not safe in the here and now, even though it might be in the here and now. So what happens is the threat detector calls upon, it says that's dangerous. And in a millisecond, it calls upon the next part of our autonomic nervous system, if it says dangerous, called our sympathetic nervous system. And I think of this like the sympathetic team is coming in front of us to protect us. It's saying, not to fear Sarah or you, I am here to protect you. And when we're in our sympathetic nervous system, this is our state of mobilization. As I'm going to embody it for you, I want you to think about, do I spend any time here? So when we're here, in essence, if we used evolution, what's happening is our system is saying, there's a lion chasing me and I need to do something about it. I probably need to get away. And you may have heard this referred to as fight or flight, our fight or flight response. So when we're here, we open up something called our vagal brake to our heart. And all that really means is that it allows energy and blood to rush to our heart. Our heart rate increases exponentially. Why? Because our body is saying, we need to mobilize. It's go time. We need to do something. When we're here, our heart rate will be increasing. We'll feel a lot of heat in our body. There'll be tension in our arms and our legs. Why tension in our arms or legs? Because our system is saying, I have to run away from this thing or fight this thing. We'll also notice that our thoughts will be racing, and they will all be about how we have to do something now. There's not enough time. It's like there's a ticking time bomb in the corner of the room, and if I don't do all the things, it's not going to be okay. And if I don't prevent against all the fires that could happen, it's not going to be okay. And I have to have control over things in order for it to be okay and prevent against the bad things that I think might happen. And that's what it's like to be in our sympathetic nervous system. As you can see, I'm embodying this for you. It's lots of energy. It doesn't feel calm in our body. It's the exact opposite of that. I feel restless. I feel fidgety. I, again, might feel tension. I might feel like I'm on a roller coaster, butterflies in my stomach. We may notice that we have tunnel vision when we're here. We may also notice we experience things like worry, anxiety, fear, frustration, terror, rage, and a wide variety of other things. What's really important to know about our sympathetic nervous system is kind of like its own country, meaning there is a vast range of experience, starting from, I feel just a little concerned or a little agitated, all the way to terror and rage. One of my mentors, Deb Dana, says, we all have a home away from home in our autonomic nervous system. And that simply means our go-to place, something that we really know. So if in the past you had experiences that were unsafe, and they're stored in this database of information, and the way that you were able to get through them was by mobilizing with this sympathetic nervous system, by doing all of the time, guess what? Your system will say, that's a really great thing or technique to use. And so because when traumas are not resolved, they're stuck in this database of information, our system doesn't know they're over. So our system is going to say, this is how we have to be in the world. This is how we have to get things done. This is how we have to navigate life. So I just want you to see here, if you're spending a lot of time in this state, that makes so much sense. The next one that I want to go towards or explain to you is something called our dorsal vagal complex. So remember, we have that threat detector, right? By the way, we don't have any control over this threat detector. It's subconscious. That means that it happens without us needing to ask it to happen. So this threat detector is saying, is that safe, threat, dangerous, or life-threatening? And if we had childhood experiences, or doesn't have to be childhood experiences in the past that were so dangerous that our system said, this is so painful or so challenging, and I don't think I can fight this thing or flee this thing. Our system, our autonomic nervous system that loves us so much says, not to worry, darling. I am going to cover you or cloak you in this numbing cloak, really, is what it is. So you don't have to feel the pain of what we can't stop. Isn't that remarkable? I get so excited about sharing this with people. I share all around the world with people because so many of us, certainly this was my experience, feel broken or feel like something is wrong with us or we're not trying hard enough. And I want you to know there is nothing wrong with you. Your system is brilliantly and perfectly working. It just may not yet know that the threat it sees in this receptacle is actually over. So let's get to these couple more states and then we'll talk about how we begin shifting this. So this dorsal state, this is the opposite of our sympathetic nervous system. You can think of this like, or it is rather, immobilization or shutdown. You can think of it like a bear hibernating. So my system is saying, whoa, this is so much, I'm just going to shut down and I'm going to leave my body altogether. So I'll give you an example from my life. My childhood home was really unsafe. There was lots of neglect and there was abuse happening. And so my system knew, well, I can't get out of here. I can't leave this experience, but I can help you to not feel the pain of what we can't stop. And you know, it's so cool. Every mammal has this capacity or ability. So the antelope that's going to be eaten by the lion, its system says, I love you so much. You can leave your body so you don't have to feel the pain of this. It's so, so cool. So our dorsal vagal complex is a wide range of experience too. And it starts at apathy. Like, I don't really care. It doesn't matter, whatever. But then it increases from apathy to feeling kind of in a funk. Everything feels kind of gray. I have low energy. It's really hard for me to think. I don't really want to be around people. I can't really even make out words. Everything's looking kind of gray. I want to cover up under the covers. I feel hopeless. I feel shame, regret. I feel depressed, all the way to dissociated, meaning I'm not in my body at all, or I don't recognize the person in the mirror, or is this even real? What is happening? So again, a wide range of experience. And here, the overarching thoughts are going to be about how we can't. We have no agency. We're not capable. We're not able. It can't change. It's never going to change. That's the overarching experience here. And I just want to share something about our autonomic nervous system. A lot of you have probably experienced the experience of going through each of these states. So what's really important to understand, or a wonderful analogy that Deb Dana and Stephen Porges came up with, is thinking of a ladder. Think of a ladder that you climb on. And at the top of the ladder is what's called that ventral vagal complex, that state of regulation. And in the middle of the ladder is that sympathetic nervous system, that state of mobilization. I have to do something. And then at the bottom of the ladder is this state of shutdown, or our dorsal vagal complex. Now that one doesn't look like the most extreme kind of self-protection, but it actually is. It is the most extreme way that our systems can protect us. It's 500 million years old. It has that much evolution behind it to keep us safe. So like a ladder, right? If I'm at the top of a ladder, in order to get to the bottom, I have to climb through the middle. In order to get through the top, I have to climb through the middle. So let's talk about what it's like to be at the top and go climbing down to the bottom. So let's say I'm at the top. I'm feeling regulated. Maybe you're with your partner and you're getting along really well. And then something happens where your threat detector, because that threat detector is working every millisecond, picks up on something they're doing and says, looks to the database of information and says that's not safe. For example, let's say that I want to tell my partner about my day. Something great happened. And as I was telling them and connecting with them, they look down at their phone. And what happens is neuroception, my threat detector says, what does this remind me of? And it says, this reminds me of your neglectful parents who never saw you and weren't available for you. That's dangerous. And so all of a sudden, I leave regulation and the self-protective of maybe sympathetic comes online. And now all of a sudden, I see them as my enemy. And I might say something like, you know what, you never care. I always listen to you. You never listen to me. I'm so tired of this. I feel like I don't matter to you. And guess what's going to happen for them? Their threat detector is going to say, what does that remind me of? And maybe they say, oh, they had a really critical mother. And although I am not being the critical mother, it's reminding their system of that. So all of a sudden, their system becomes self-protective. And now they're in the sympathetic state too. And we're battling one another. And so we've gone down our ladder. And then at some point, if we continue being in that place of dysregulation, one of us may go to our dorsal system or the bottom of the ladder, where all of a sudden we go from caring so much, and I really need you to hear my point, to I don't care at all. And maybe you've experienced that. I certainly did, where I care so much, and then all of a sudden, you know what, it doesn't matter. I don't care if this relationship ends. I don't care if this job venture I'm working on works out or not. It doesn't matter. I'm out. And I really feel like I don't care. What's happened is I've just gone to that deeper state of dysregulation. So I want you to just think for a minute in an embodied way, what is it like for me to be in each of the states that I've described? And what I'd invite you to do is to spend some time writing in what are the sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that I have in each of these states. What we want to do is to create kind of like a map for ourselves, an understanding of what each state is like. Why do we want to know that? Because if I can know where I am in my nervous system, then I can do something to change the experience. But when I'm dysregulated, my system is not going to tell me I'm dysregulated. It's going to say, this is rational and makes a lot of sense and is exactly right. But if I can pick something up, let's say I wrote something down and I can pick it up and say, wait, where am I on my ladder? Oh, this sounds like I'm in my sympathetic nervous system. That's a clue or a cue that I need to turn towards regulation. Because here's the thing, when we're dysregulated, all of our actions and behaviors and thoughts are going to be self-protective. They might not actually be our embodied truth based on what's happening in the here and now. They might be a protective truth based on what we needed to do to protect ourselves in the past. So it is so important when we're making choices and decisions that we're coming to that from a place of regulation. That's the only place to know what our embodied truth is in the here and now. Last state that I want to tell you about is a blended state called freeze. And when we find ourselves stuck, this is a place we might be spending a lot of our time in. Freeze is equal parts sympathetic mobilization with equal parts shut down dorsal. So one part is saying we have to. The other part is saying we can't. And they meet each other and it creates what's called tonic immobility. I can't move. I can't create change. So the thoughts are going to be about how I have to do something, but I can't. I have to, but I can't. I have to, but I can't. I sit down to look at all the emails. There's so many things to do. It's so overwhelming, but I need to get it done. But oh my gosh, I can't get it done. I feel like I need to take a nap. I'm just so exhausted. And I just sit here in this place of kind of like deer in headlights. And it takes a lot of energy to be in a state of freeze. And there's a lot of shame about it. We can feel like, why didn't I do something? Why didn't I fight back? And I just want you to know you were doing something. Your system was protecting you and is protecting you. So those are our 3 states of self-protection. And I give you our state of regulation, our ventral vagal complex. And really the answer to our happy relationships, the answer to getting unstuck in your life, the answer to having a full, happy life is that we're spending the predominant amount of our time in regulation. Not all of the time, but the predominant amount of time in regulation. And the way that we do that is through regulating our nervous systems. Our nervous systems are actually pliable and malleable. Kind of think of it like clay. We can reshape it. And this isn't a mystical experience. The way that we do that is through something called neural exercises. And you can think of that like a rep at the gym. Like let's say I was to do a curl. If I did this every single day, what would happen? My arm would get stronger and bigger. If we regulate consistently, what we're doing is reps for our nervous system. And that helps to support to bring us into a regulated state. So I want to talk about that with you now, how we can begin creating a toolbox for regulation. So what I would invite you to do is to create a list of things that support you to feel good and present. Not things that help you to numb. There's some things that help us to numb, kind of like maybe scrolling through Instagram or maybe having a few glasses of wine at night. There's nothing wrong, of course, with having a glass of wine, but am I doing that to numb the anxiety or numb the loneliness? If I'm doing that, that is not a regulating resource. A regulating resource, or something that supports us to come into ventral, is anything that supports us to feel more here. So think about, for this toolbox of regulating resources, things that help me to feel more here. And I want you to write down things you can do on your own and things you can do with others. I'm going to give you some examples. Things like being in nature exercise, dancing, controlled breathing exercises, qigong, maybe things that you really like gardening or cooking, reading, taking a bath. Tapping is a wonderful somatic regulatory resource. I have on my Instagram, you can look at lots of regulating resources that I provide there, therapeutic there too, but things that support you to feel present and good. Then I want you to think of things you can do with other people. And that might be playing games with other people, being with your animals or children. Co-regulating is this term, connecting nervous system to nervous system. We can do that with characters in TV shows as well. Do I feel alivened and connected with them? So write down a list of things that you can do with others, things that you can do alone. And here's what I want you to do with this toolbox. I want you to set reminders in your phone. I don't know why I call it telephone. In your phone. When the reminder goes off, here's what I want you to do. I want you to check and see, where am I in my nervous system? Of the 4 states I gave you, where am I right now? And if you are anywhere but in regulation, in ventral, then your job is to pick up this toolbox, look at the list, and do something to regulate. And after you do something to regulate or feel more here, I just want you to ask yourself, is anything different? Do I feel a little bit more present? Is there a little less energy in my body if I was in my sympathetic state? Is there a little more energy if I was feeling shut down? Am I a little more here? And if you're even just a little more here, exercise is complete. That's the rep. That's the neural exercise. The more we do them, the more we come into regulation and live there. So set a few reminders in your phone. That could be 2, it could be 6, whatever, to get clear on where am I in my nervous system and start practicing these regulating resources. And then lastly, what I just want to share with you is, if you're finding yourself stuck, unable to step towards the things in life that you desire, that is likely because the things that you desire, more often than not, are things that were once dangerous in the past, right? So when we go to step towards them, our threat detector says, oh, that's not safe. That reminds me of the dangerous things in the past, rendering us stuck. I went through this yo-yo in my life for truly like a decade. And I'm sure others of you here have too. And so the way that we get unstuck is not by trying to push through, because the protective parts will come online stronger. The way that we do this is by taking tolerable steps. And that means a step that is probably smaller than you think you should be taking. And so I want you to think about whatever task it is that you're wanting to step towards: vulnerability in your relationship, creating the website for your company, connecting with a friend. How can I break that step up into even smaller steps? And the way that we know if it's a tolerable step is, 1, I can complete on it. I can mobilize through it. And 2, toleration means it won't feel good at first. And that's because the protective parts are saying, wait, are you sure it's okay to have this thing? But we want it to be a small enough step that they don't stop us completely, that I can still finish the step and mobilize through it. And guess what? That gets stored in the database of information, just as every regulating experience gets stored in that database of information. And the more that we have those, guess what happens? The more we get unstuck. The more we step towards the things in our lives that we desire, the more that we get to live in a place of regulation. And that is possible for every single one of us.